RPGs are the greatest genre of games. I've been saying it since your dad was a bippy, and if you disagree, you are wrong. So you have to understand, when I discuss RPGs, this is not a passing flame. This is a marriage. And today, I need to go to couples counseling. Because as much as I love RPGs, lately I've been having a little problem go on in the back of my head when I sit down and try to enjoy my role-playing game experience. And that problem that is so big that shatters the heavens, rattles the earth, and makes even a superfan such as myself get so irate is... they're just too long. Yeah, that's really the big problem I've been having lately. I've been playing a lot of classic RPGs lately, such as Final Fantasy IV, Super Mario RPG especially, and revisiting probably the greatest RPG of all time, Chrono Trigger. And something I've really come to appreciate about these older RPGs that I've loved for many years and just been kind of seeing in a new light now is they're very condensed experiences. They don't waste your time. They don't give you filler, bullshit content that you don't want to sit through. They give you a very focused story, and you're constantly getting new experiences, new ideas, and just excitement all throughout the game. Most recently, I plan to talk about it when I finish it up, but Super Mario RPG has just been such a blast going through. It's actually my first time playing the game, and I'm really impressed just how creative that game is consistently. Every 5 minutes, you're getting some new thing, whether it's a new boss, a new location, a new mini game, which the game is absolutely littered with, new songs, you name it. It really keeps everything fresh and keeps you hooked for the entire game. But games are not a one-medium experience. It's not just delivering to you a story. So the pacing of the story, while important, is not that's all to play here. You have to consider how the gameplay factors into that, how you're getting new locations, new character entries. All these things have to come together to deliver a cohesive package. Which is where we fall into the subject of today's video, Atlus. Now, Atlus makes some of the finest RPGs in the entire genre, with Shin Megami Tensei's impressive dungeons, amazing combat with the press turn system, and the alignment system even that gives the player such a big reason to replay the game and see all the game has to offer. All the spin-offs of Shin Megami Tensei, such as, Devil Summoner series, Digital Devil Saga, those are all amazing too. And of course, Persona, a massive name I don't think I need to introduce at all, but the calendar system introduces such a unique layer to the RPG formula that really makes the player think and strategize how they're going to go about, completing the game. And most recently, Metaphor ReFantazio, which I just already did a video praising that game up and down for its new introduction of real-time battle into the RPG formula that, long story short, I think's amazing, and every game going forward in the Atlus lineup should use that system. However, the one thing about Atlus RPGs is they are very, very long. Persona 5 is widely known to be almost a 100-hour game with doing the bare minimum story. Metaphor ReFantazio, I think I'm at hour 80 right now, and I'm just honing in on the final boss. They are very long experiences. You really need to commit a lot of time to these games. However, that's not to say they're badly paced. Some may argue that the side content in the games and the calendar system forces a slower, more methodical means of going through the game. However, that is part of the game structure. And I don't think that the Persona games, or Metaphor ReFantazio especially, is poorly paced. No, they all are stuffed to the brim with content you want to experience. That is meaningful. That doesn't feel like filler content or just tacked on stuff to extend game time. No, they are great games with great stories and great pacing. There's just so fucking much of it. It's overwhelming, and more than overwhelming, it's such a time commitment, like I said earlier, that you really have to lock in that these games, or this game, God help you if you play multiple, like spoilers, I'm doing right now, you really have to say, I'm fine playing these games for the next month, 2 months, 3 months, especially Persona 5, if you're playing Royal, good 3-month excursion there. This is where I feel it's such a convoluted topic, because I know when I was in middle school and high school before I had a job, when I had nothing but free time in my hands, I wanted long RPGs. The longer the better for me. I just realized what I said. If any of you clip that, I'm going to hit you. My point is, when I had nothing but free time, I appreciated the length of RPGs, of Persona taking me 100 hours to complete. But now, as normal life responsibilities are entering into the fray of my free time, it's a lot harder to have the free time to digest a 100-hour RPG. And it almost turns me off from playing these games because I say to myself, I have such limited time to sit down and enjoy a game. Would I rather play something where I can maybe make a significant dent in getting this experience? Or would I rather turn on, say, Metaphor ReFantazio, where maybe I can play for the, very fleeting hour or 2 hours of free time a day that I get, and maybe get through like 1.8% of it. It's very, the length is a double-edged sword, definitely. But I know that's just my scenario, and it doesn't apply to everybody. Maybe some people have more time than I do. But I'd argue most people going into adulthood, or people in adulthood, don't have the free time to justify sitting through a 100-hour game. Unless, like I said, unless that's their thing. Unless they want to pick one game that they can stick with for the next 2 months and really get invested in the world. And to be fair, that's where I think it is also such a convoluted topic. You don't get invested into any other RPG quite like an Atlas RPG. And that's simply because you spend so much damn time in these worlds with these characters, experiencing all the unique UI, all the locations, all the music, that you really do become one with that world, with that experience. And that's why so many people hold Atlas RPGs, especially Persona, so dearly. They're so beloved to them because they feel, after spending 100+ hours in these, worlds, that they're part of it. They feel like the cast of Persona 4 is their friends. They feel the Phantom Thieves are a significant portion of their lives. So I get it. And I am a fan of it as well. But this is a problem that applies to non-Atlas RPGs. Final Fantasy, especially Rebirth, which I loved, was one of my favorite games of the year last year. That's a long game, and Final Fantasy VII is my favorite thing in the world, but even it was a long time. Now, I want to be clear, this isn't a problem, per se, for the RPGs themselves. This isn't a problem for the genre or anything. It's a personal problem, but I feel like for a lot of people, they have this problem. And I've seen this problem echoed with a lot of people, that I just don't have the time to dedicate to these games, and I'm a big fan of replaying RPGs. I can kind of turn on Final Fantasy IV whenever and run through it. And I know, yeah, maybe it'll take me 15, 20 hours to do so, but I can reasonably beat that game in a weekend if I really wanted to. But with something like Persona 5, that's a game that I do love very much and I hold very dearly. But after I beat that game once, I don't know if I'm going to do that shit again. I have no idea. I'd probably just watch the cutscenes on YouTube or something. But to sit down and do the whole 100-hour saga again, it scares me, man, and I guess New Game Plus and modes like that kind of alleviate some of that, time sink. You don't have to spend as much time leveling up or, getting your persona maxed out. But just the game itself is still significantly longer than your standard RPG or by God, your standard video game experience, where game campaigns are usually lucky if they reach 20 hours long, But it's definitely been on my mind as I've been going through these classic, shorter RPGs, and just their quicker pacing. It's exciting. I don't think it's a detriment that RPGs are longer. But also, I wouldn't mind seeing some shorter RPGs come out today. Something that you can reasonably get through, in a weekend or a week, maybe, because I don't think it can hurt. I don't think diversity ever hurts. And, I think a lot more people would be willing to try out an RPG and get past some of the, common complaints of the genre, such as, slow pacing and long hours and maybe even the turn-based combat a lot of people don't like, if the games were shorter runtime. Because, hey, as great as some RPGs are, let's think about it. Dragon Quest XI, one of the greatest RPGs we've gotten in the past 10 years. very long game. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I just mentioned, very long game. Very great game, but again, very long game, especially if you want to see everything. Persona, Metaphor ReFantazio, Fire Emblem suffering from this lately of being very, very long. Xenoblade Chronicles, good lord, I love that series, but you gotta sit down for a fucking month if you, just for the cutscenes alone. It's like Metal Gear levels of cutscenes. So, my point is, I love RPGs. I think you all know that. And I want to play more. I'm always trying to explore new ones. I'm always trying to replay ones that I hold very dear. And I want the genre to be as good as it can be, you know? And just playing through these classic RPGs, I think there's a charm to the shorter, quicker pacing of older RPGs. I really think, yeah, they were trying to do the most with what they had. And of course, games had to be shorter because of that. But I do think at a certain point, it wasn't just that. They weren't just trying to do the best with the resources they had. And I think they were really trying to deliver a competent product with a very strong pacing, you know, and that even continued into, you know, the Final Fantasy games on PlayStation 1, where, yeah, the runtime got a little bit longer, but still, games like Final Fantasy 7, pretty damn quick pacing, and Final Fantasy 8, pretty damn quick pacing as well. So, but long versus short, it's all about how you use the time you're given, right? We all know that. Tale as old as time. But my point is, both have their appeals and their detriments, and I just think, you know, it can't hurt to see the beauty in either. Those longer Persona-style RPGs definitely have their appeal. Just lately, it's been taking me a long time to get through it, man. I want to play more games, but it's still fun. You know, if you're out there and you haven't tried some of those older classic RPGs because, you know, you think it's outdated, you know, give them a shot. I don't think it can hurt. I think there's a lot to enjoy about them. Super Mario RPG, the remake just came out, and it's a blast, man. It's going to be over before you know it because you're going to be hooked immediately. The game gives you new shit every 5 seconds. Chrono Trigger, again, greatest RPG of all time, arguably. Play that. Final Fantasy VI, you know, you can't go wrong. Second greatest RPG of all time, if not number one. So, yeah, that's about it for me. Later.